Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves wandering into a peculiar little village, a place where the air smells like lavender tea, the cobblestone streets are suspiciously clean, and everyone is smiling. Not just politely smiling, not just I caught your eye on the street smiling. No, we're talking ear to ear, deep cheeked, unsettling, toothpaste commercial smiling. It's noon. It's required. And you're not smiling. Uh-oh. You squint against the sun as it strikes the bell tower at the center of town. Birds flutter lazily across the sky. A small, perfect cloud hangs overhead like it's been painted there. But beneath that postcard, peace, you sense tension. Because here, in the town of Eldenberry Hollow, the clock is more than time. It's law. And once it hits noon, the rule is simple. Men must smile, or else. You're not dreaming. This is real. Or it's going to feel real enough soon. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Drop your city and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through the town's main square, curious and a little confused. The buildings here look like they've been pulled from a storybook. Crooked roofs, flower boxes with purple blooms, a tea shop called the Grinning Goat. People pass you, old men in suspenders, teens on bikes, a nun walking a cat, and every single one is smiling, like genuinely smiling. Except it doesn't feel genuine, does it? They all glance at you, and for a moment, you feel exposed. You do that awkward lip tuck thing. A smirk, maybe? Your cheeks twitch as you try to force it, but it's too late. The bell tolls. 12 clean, slow chimes. From a corner bench, an elderly man drops his newspaper. From behind a hedge, a child whispers, "He's not smiling." And from down the street, footsteps echo, measured, deliberate. You turn toward the sound, your breath catching. A figure appears. Black hat, long gray coat, a brass badge in the shape of a grinning mask pinned to his chest. No smile, just a clipboard. "Sir," he says. His voice is calm, almost polite. "It is now 12:01. Are you aware of the statute?" You stare, confused. I think I missed the memo?" He checks his clipboard. "You're a male-presenting adult in Eldenberry Hollow. As such, you are required to present a facial expression consistent with joy, satisfaction, or contentment between the hours of 12 noon and 12:06 post-meridium per local ordinance, EH 12.3. You blink. "So I have to smile?" He nods. "You were observed frowning. That's a Class C misdemeanor under town law." You look around. Everyone is still smiling. No one speaks. A jogger runs past with a grin so wide it looks like it hurts. Somewhere behind you, someone coughs and then chuckles nervously. You attempt a smile, the kind you give at awkward weddings or after someone shows you a picture of their kid falling into cake. The official squints. That appears to be a nervous wince, not compliant. Do you wish to contest the citation, or would you prefer a correctional referral? What's correctional referral? He smiles for the first time. It's not comforting. You'll see. You follow him, because what else are you going to do? He leads you through the square, past the mandatory Mirth Memorial Fountain. Yes, that's really what it says on the plaque. And into a small wooden building labeled Civic Center for Positive Expression. Inside, it's quiet, peaceful, too peaceful. A receptionist looks up and beams. literally beams. Her teeth reflect the overhead lights like polished ivory. "Another non-smiler?" she asks cheerfully. "Afraid so," the official says. She gestures toward a hallway. "Room 4. Dr. Tremblin is available." You're ushered into a room with a mirror, a chair, and a poster on the wall showing different types of smiles. The teacup, the puppy memory, the royal grin, the acceptable chuckle. You're told to sit. You do. Dr. Tremblin enters. A woman in her 60s with impossibly shiny cheeks and lipstick that doesn't move when she talks. "You look tense," she says, sitting. "Let's talk about your relationship with smiling." You laugh, mostly to deflect the rising weirdness. "It's fine. I smile when things are funny." She nods sympathetically. "Ah, spontaneous expression. Very 20th century of you." You ask the obvious. "Why is this law a thing?" She leans forward. "Because frowns are infectious. Because happiness must be protected. Because once the corners of the mouth start turning down, society collapses." You blink. "That seems extreme." She shrugs. "So is the plague. But we don't allow that either." She hands you a tiny mirror. "Now, show me your noon face." You attempt something cheerful. She studies you. We'll need to work on that." You leave the session with a pamphlet titled "Smile Like You Mean It, a Manual for Noon Compliance." On the cover, a cartoon sun wears sunglasses and winks. You feel no safer. You definitely don't feel happier. Outside, the bell chimes again. It's 12:06. The air shifts. The smiles vanish. Every single person's face relaxes all at once, like a switch has flipped. The tea shop owner sighs. A street performer groans and rubs his cheeks. A woman leans against the mailbox and mutters, "4 more days of this and my face will crack." You're not alone in your unease, but you're also not free. Not yet. You wander the town square in a daze, the pamphlet still clutched in your hand, its laminated surface slick with sweat. You glance again at the cartoon sun on the cover. Its smug little grin seems to mock you. Noon face. That's what they called it. Not a smile. Not a cheerful demeanor. No, it's noon face. A prescribed expression of mandated male mirth between 12 noon and 12:06 p.m., backed by town ordinance and enforced with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for war crimes or artisanal yogurt. You walk past the grinning goat again. The smiles have faded. People have returned to a kind of resting blankness, like stage performers between acts. You feel their eyes occasionally flick toward you, not hostile, just curious. You're new. You didn't smile. You were seen. And in Eldenberry Hollow, being seen not smiling at noon is worse than jaywalking, spitting, or publicly doubting the usefulness of decorative throw pillows. The bells toll 12:30. You flinch. Nothing happens. But everyone pauses. You look to your left and see a man with thick glasses slowly raise his hand to his mouth in the shape of a smile, just for a moment, before shaking his head and muttering, "Residual reflex. Sorry." His friend pats him gently on the back. You follow the flow of the townsfolk until you reach the center of the square. The crowd gathers in a practiced semicircle. They're waiting for something. From the bell tower steps, a figure emerges. He wears robes, not ceremonial robes, but the kind that suggest he lives in a room with no sharp corners and an unusual fondness for incense. His beard is sharp enough to cut fruit. He carries a clipboard in one hand and what appears to be a golden bell in the other. This is the bellmaster. You hear the name whispered around you. Bellmaster Julin. grandfather of Grin, timekeeper of joy. He raises his arms. Friends of Eldenberry Hollow, he booms. Several people respond in chorus. Smiles be upon you. You blink. What fresh cult is this? Bellmaster Julin smiles, slowly. You can feel it. He's practiced. Today, as with every day, the noon hour has passed with 98.4% compliance. Well done. People clap. Gently, rhythmically. A single dove flaps overhead. You're pretty sure it was released on cue. However, Julin continues, one among us faltered. One among us refused the kindness of expression. You feel a dozen heads turn toward you. Oh no, not again. Julin nods. He has accepted correction. He has learned. And tomorrow he shall smile. Shall he not? The crowd murmurs. You feel your mouth twitch upward involuntarily. You nod. You give a little smile. A real one this time. Or at least a panicked one. Julin seems satisfied. Let us remember, the world outside is grim. But here, at noon, we rise above it. We choose the grin. We reject the grimace. And then, as casually as if he were announcing a bake sale, he says, let us toll the fine. Two teenage boys dressed in slightly too serious uniforms roll forward a wooden wheel, something between a barrel and a bingo machine. A woman in pearls reaches inside and pulls out a slip of paper. She reads aloud, 5 smile tokens. Or 30 minutes of enforced mirth. The crowd gasps, then claps. You, meanwhile, lean toward the man beside you. What's a smile token? He looks at you like you've asked what air is. They're town currency. You earn them by contributing to community morale. You blink. Like, telling jokes? He shakes his head. Number like painting cheerful murals, wearing seasonal vests, hosting afternoon tea, giggling appropriately at the town council's puns. And if you don't have tokens, he gestures toward the bell tower steps where a small wooden chair is being prepared. A brass sign is placed beside it. Compulsory chuckling station. You've never seen someone sigh and smile at the same time, but somehow you manage it. They lead a man, not you, thank heaven, someone else, toward the chair. He has the look of a man resigned to fate, like someone heading into a dentist's office that also sells taxes. He sits. A small speaker crackles to life. The chair tilts backward. And then the audio begins. Ha 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 ha! The banana said to the pear, "You're ripe for a laugh." It's not even a joke. It's a sound, a concept, a surrealistic assault on dignity. The man in the chair begins to chuckle, slowly, uneasily. The speaker crackles again. "Smile, citizen. Your teeth desire freedom." The chuckles become wheezy. The crowd claps in slow rhythm. You turn away. You've seen enough. You duck into a nearby alley. Behind a cafe, you find a small plaque embedded in the stone. It's tarnished, mostly forgotten. You brush it off. In honor of those who could not smile. 1803 முதல் 1807, a list of names, 47 in total. That's when it hits you. This isn't just a town with a weird law. It's a town that remembers how many people have failed to smile. It's a town that keeps count. And now, you're on their list. You sit against the wall, heart pounding. You need a plan. Because tomorrow's noon will come again. And next time, the Smile Patrol might not settle for pamphlets and awkward therapy. They might settle for something worse. You wake the next day in the guest house they assigned you, the Laughing Lantern Inn, a name that somehow manages to sound both cozy and threatening. The bed is soft, the sheets smell like peppermint, and yet your jaw aches from the panic-induced smile you wore half the afternoon yesterday. You stretch, roll your neck, and glance at the clock on the wall. 11:02 a.m. The countdown to noon face has begun. You wander downstairs in your socks, and the innkeeper greets you with a knowing nod. Had your smile tea yet? She asks. I'm sorry? Lemon balm, licorice root, and a touch of St. John's wort. It helps smooth out the sarcasm. She hands you a steaming mug. We all drink it before noon. You sip. It tastes like optimism and floor cleaner. By 11:30, the town square begins to shift. People emerge from their homes like well-trained cast members arriving for a dress rehearsal. They stretch their cheeks in little circles. Some slap their faces gently. One man stands in front of a mirror reciting, I am joyful, I am serene, I am alive. A young woman walks up to you, clipboard in hand. Hi there, just doing a quick noon face readiness check. Can I see your rehearsal smile? You oblige, stretching your lips into something just shy of a hostage situation. She checks a box and smiles professionally. Lovely. Remember, upper teeth visible, but no gums unless you're level 3 smiler status. We don't want to alarm children. You blink. There are levels? She nods. Of course. Level 1 is standard cheer, level 2 is enthusiastic glow, and level 3 is radiant devotion. You're currently preliminary hesitance. You try again. It doesn't help. Just before noon, the mood changes. A new figure steps into view. Sleek gray uniform, polished shoes, triangular badge, smile enforcement auxiliary agent. But the townsfolk call them something else. The Grinners. Two of them begin to pace the square like sharks in pressed slacks, scanning faces with small hand mirrors, adjusting posture, handing out wrinkle cream. You watch one gently tilt a man's head 5 degrees and whisper, There we go. Now your joy doesn't look crooked. You spot children doing smile drills with a street performer. Hold it, and rest. The whole square buzzes like a hive before the queen arrives. Then it happens. 12 chimes. They echo through you like a sentence passed. A few birds scatter. A woman drops her apple and doesn't bother to pick it up. Everyone locks in. The square is suddenly a sea of forced cheer. You try to mimic them, your face trembling slightly. The corners of your mouth twitch. It's like flexing a muscle you never train, especially not on command. Then, through the crowd, he arrives. Long coat, top hat, gleaming monocle, Commissioner Prim, head of the Smile Patrol. His grin is flawless, effortless, terrifying. Good citizens, he intones, stepping onto the podium in front of the grinning fountain. We gather again at the sacred hour, noon, that brightest spark of the day. And we do what must be done. We grin. The crowd smiles harder. You swear you hear someone pop a jaw. Commissioner Prim's voice softens. It's not about the law, he says. It's about legacy. In 1794, our founder, Mayor Clement Quibble, declared that at noon, when the sun casts no shadows, neither should our hearts. You notice the plaque behind him bears that same phrase, no shadows at noon. He continues, so we smile. We raise our cheeks and lower our worries. We beam, not because we must, but because to do otherwise would dishonor the great tradition of forced male positivity. You cough. Someone glares at you. Commissioner Prim turns his gaze to you. Of course. Ah, our guest, he says, voice smooth as melted caramel. We are honored by your presence. I trust your preparation has improved. You nod. Your cheeks feel brittle. He steps down, walks slowly, directly to you. He examines your face like an appraiser studying a fake painting. Then he whispers, That's a smirk. We don't smirk here. Smirking implies sarcasm, and sarcasm is the twin of despair. You stammer, "It's just how my mouth rests." He pulls out a small notebook. "We'll schedule a post-noon re-education. Nothing drastic. A few diagrams. Some mirror time." You smile wider out of panic. He seems pleased. "That's better. Carry on." As he walks away, you sigh through your teeth. That's when someone next to you mutters, "Don't inhale too deeply." Looks like despair. You turn. The speaker is a wiry man with a thick mustache and a too bright vest. He introduces himself in a whisper, "Jules." Smile correction. "Officer turned sympathizer." "Turned?" you ask. He nods. "One day I realized I hadn't actually laughed in 12 years. I'd just pulled the face." He glances around. "You're not the only one. There's a group. We meet. Quietly. We call ourselves the blank." "The blank?" He nods solemnly. "We practice non-expression. We believe in emotional honesty. Even between noon and 6, you blink. That's dangerous." He smiles, then quickly unsmiles. "Meet me after dusk, by the candle shop. Come neutral." And then he's gone, absorbed into the symmetrical crowd, his face settling back into bureaucratic joy. As the final chime of 12:06 rings out, the square collapses back into normalcy. People cough, stretch, rub their cheeks. One man throws up in a bush. You wobble toward a bench and sit down. You feel drained. Not physically, but emotionally dehydrated, like someone wrung your soul through a fake smile and hung it to dry. A voice beside you murmurs, "First day's always the worst. Second day's worse than that. But by day 5, your facial muscles just give in." You look up. A woman with a book titled "Smiling with Intention" sits down next to you. "You staying long?" she asks. "I don't know," you admit. She nods. "Then you better learn about the Grinners." You look at her, unsure. "I thought the Grinners were those agents." "No," she says, her eyes scanning the square. "Those are just the enforcers. The true Grinners live underground." The sun sets over Eldenberry Hollow like it's being lowered by committee, slow, calculated, and suspiciously on time. Street lamps flicker on with a soft click, casting amber halos over the cobblestones. The bells are quiet now. The masks are off. The people of the village return to their natural states, tired, wary, and sore in the jaw. You make your way to the candle shop as Jules instructed. Its windows glow with soft flickers, and the air smells of lavender, beeswax, and something vaguely threatening, like cinnamon with secrets. The bell above the door jingles as you step inside. A short woman with round glasses and a smudge of soot on her cheek looks up from a counter cluttered with wicks and jars. She raises an eyebrow, then nods toward the back. "Neutral?" You nod, doing your best to relax every muscle in your face. No mirth, no mockery. Just a blank, expressionless void. A true blank. She pulls aside a velvet curtain and gestures. "Third door down. Knock twice, wait for silence, then knock once more. If you hear whistling, run." You nod again. No questions, no smiles. The hallway beyond the curtain is narrow and dim. You walk softly, footsteps muffled by thick rugs. At the third door, you knock twice. Wait, then one knock. The door opens. Jules stands there, no vest this time. Just a plain sweater and an exhausted face. "Welcome," he says quietly. "Don't react. Come in." The room is small, round, and filled with people seated in a circle. Candles flicker in wall sconces, casting strange shadows that don't quite reach the corners. On the floor in the center, A circle drawn in chalk with a single word scrawled in the middle. Unfeigned. No one speaks. Instead, they all turn their heads towards you and nod. A silent greeting. One woman raises a single eyebrow. It's the closest thing you've seen to enthusiasm all day. Jules closes the door behind you. "We are the blank," he says softly. "We believe smiles should be spontaneous, that grins should mean something, that joy cannot be legislated." You sit. No one claps. No one welcomes you. And somehow, that's more comforting than anything else you've experienced here. He continues. "We meet after dusk. We train in control, in subtlety, in subversion. Some of us are performers. Others are defectors. One of us," he nods toward a bald man with a twitchy eye, "was once the voice on the Chuckle Chair recordings." You stare. The man stares back. No expression. Another woman, mid-30s, speaks up. "We track infractions. We log patrols. We monitor the smile index." You raise an eyebrow. "There's an index?" She nods. "Smile quotient per capita. SQPC. They post it weekly. High scores mean fewer inspections. Low scores bring escalation." You think back to the clipboard, the public readings, the ceremonial enforcement. This is all based on how much men smile? "Specifically men," Jules says. "It was designed that way. In 1794, Mayor Quibble believed male melancholy was a threat to social cohesion." You blink. "Why only men?" Jules sighs. He believed women's expressions were already governed by fashion and etiquette. But men, he said, had dangerous faces when left unattended. His words. The group grumbles softly. Someone writes that quote down on a napkin. Jules continues. "It started as a festival, a local morale event. Noon smiles, they called it. Then came the reports, the Frown alerts, the tokens, the schools." He gestures toward a stack of old pamphlets. "Then came the Smile Patrol, and now, here we are." You pick up one of the pamphlets. It's brittle, dated 1812. On the cover, "A joyful noon is a loyal noon." You exhale slowly. This is dystopia. In pastels, Jewel chuckles, quietly, carefully. "Exactly." Suddenly the candlelight flickers. The room stills. A soft knock echoes from behind the curtain. 3 times. People shift. Someone snuffs a candle. Jules raises his hand. "Code 3? The soot-stained woman from the front whispers, "It's a grinner." He turns to the group. "Maintain blank. No alarm." The door creaks open. A tall, slender man with impossibly shiny shoes steps into the room. His face is smooth as wax. His smile, permanent. "Good evening," the man says, eyes sweeping the room. "I'm here on behalf of Commissioner Prim. We received a report of mood neutrality in this district." No one answers. The man glides closer. "That's not a violation, yet, but it is suspicious." Still, silence. He leans in toward you. "You're the new arrival, aren't you? You didn't smile yesterday. You don't nod. You don't blink. You blank." He smirks. "Very good. Practicing, are we?" You remain neutral. The others follow your lead. Faces smooth, blank as the chalk ring on the floor. He circles the room once slowly, then stops beside Jules. "I'll leave you now," he says softly. "But tomorrow's noon is only 600 minutes away." And just like that, he's gone. Everyone exhales at once. Jules turns to you. "Congratulations, you passed your first unannounced inspection." You shake your head. "That was one of the grinners?" Jules nods. "The worst kind, subtle, quiet, smiling with intent." You rub your temples. "How do you all do this every day?" Another voice, soft, older, replies from the back. "We practice. We rehearse. And once a year, we perform. You glance toward her. Perform what? Jules answers for her. A single act of rebellion, a moment of true expression, hidden in plain sight. You frown. How? He smiles. And for once, it's real. We have a plan. The next morning, the village breathes like clockwork. At 6 a.m., sharp, a bell chimes once. It's not loud, just enough to nudge the early risers. By 7:30, fresh scones are placed on windowsills for communal olfactory delight, and by 8:15, a chorus of roosters performs a tune that sounds suspiciously rehearsed. You lie in bed staring at the ceiling, your facial muscles still sore from yesterday's forced enthusiasm. The phrase, smile with intent, echoes in your skull like a curse, or worse, like a corporate slogan. Outside, laughter rings out. But you know better now. That laughter is too perfect, too even, too scheduled. You rise, pull on your stiff innkeeper-issue trousers, and prepare for another performance. You consider practicing in the mirror, but something about that feels like surrender. Instead, you practice nothing. Blankness. A face at rest. A neutrality that could pass as early morning fogginess. Because today, you're going to learn about Harold Bigham's. You meet Jules just past the Grinning Goat, near the old Sundial Plaza. He's holding a book and a rolled-up town map. Ready to meet the town's biggest unsmiler? He asks with a smirk. I thought that was me, you say. Jules chuckles. Harold Bigham's walks so you could frown. He leads you through winding cobblestone lanes, past sunlit courtyards and flower boxes bursting with joyfully yellow pansies. Everything in Eldenberry Hollow appears designed to cheer, charm, or distract. But beneath the facade, you begin to see cracks. A group of schoolchildren practicing their midday grin positions, with the enthusiasm of wet toast. A shopkeeper adjusting smile decals on every window pane. A man painting a mural of smiling dogs, his own face deadpan the entire time. Jules stops in front of a narrow brick home flanked by statues of cherubs with unsettlingly wide eyes. A tarnished plaque reads, "Here resided Harold Bigham's, the last noon rebel, 1841 to 1887. You follow him inside. The house has been converted into a museum of sorts, though no one seems to maintain it. Dust lines the edges of display cases. A mannequin in the center wears a faded brown waistcoat and an expression of subtle disapproval. Jewel points. That's Harold, or at least the closest replica we have. He opens the book and reads. On the 14th of March, 1865, Harold Bigham's refused to smile at noon. Not out of protest, but because his soup was too hot. You blink. That's it? Jules grins. That's how it started. One frown, one moment, one ladle too soon. The next display shows an old drawing of Harold standing stiffly in a square, while townsfolk point and gasp. His eyebrows are furrowed, not dramatically, but just enough to offend. He was fined, he was shamed. But he did not smile, Jules continues. By the third offense, they offered reprogramming. He refused. You step toward the next case. It contains a chair, small, wooden, with straps. You turn slowly to Jules. Is that? He nods. The original chuckle chair. Before they had audio. They used tickling. You recoil. That's horrifying. Jules shrugs. Harold didn't crack. He wore that same half-disapproving look all the way through. Some say his eyebrows never returned to neutral. You examine a newspaper clipping. Grim noon. Bigham's frowns again. Town demands reform. I don't get it, you say. Why make an example of him? Jules closes the book. because his expression broke the illusion. People looked at him and remembered that emotion isn't symmetrical, that joy isn't a duty, and the Smile Patrol couldn't have that. He guides you to a final display, a diary. Open to the last page. If smiling means pretending I'm not human, then I'd rather be a frown than a fraud. You read the words twice, maybe 3 times. The writing is spidery, shaky, but honest. So, what happened to him, you ask? Jules sighs. Exile, technically. But he never left. He just walked out into the fields, set up a shack near the old windmill, lived quiet, blank. Some say he smiled once more before he died, but only because he saw a goose wearing a hat. You can't help it. You laugh. It's small, stupid, honest. Jules raises a brow. See? That's the good kind. As you step outside, the noon chime strikes again. You freeze instinctively, but nothing happens. Not here. Not this far from the square. Jules leans against the wall. Out here, the Smile Patrol doesn't patrol. Too far. Too quiet. This is Harold's territory. You glance toward the fields. Windmill blades turn lazily in the distance. Somewhere, a goose honks. You turn back to Jules. So how do we use this? He smiles. Real, but cautious. We remember. We teach others. And one day, maybe we write a new law. You both start walking. You think people would follow it, you ask? Probably not, Jules says. But we wouldn't find them for it. You both chuckle. And just like that, for once, no one flinches. You return to town just before dusk, heart still humming from the story of Harold Biggums and the quiet rebellion his frown ignited. The air carries that strange elderberry scent, fresh bread, polished brick, and something else, an undercurrent of pressure, as if the entire village is a coiled spring waiting to snap with a toothy grin. Jules leaves you near the candle shop, promising to send word when the next stage is ready. You nod and slip back into your assigned room at the Laughing Lantern Inn, where a note is waiting on your pillow. Reminder: all male guests must report to Smiling School by 9 p.m. sharp. Level 1 orientation mandatory. Bring a mirror. No gum chewing. Gratefully, yours, the Cheerful Compliance Office. You stare at the paper for a full minute before flipping it over, half expecting it to be a joke. It's not. You check the town map. There it is. Just behind the post office. Municipal Hall of Affirmative Expression, formerly Eldenberry Courthouse. Smiling School. You arrive at 8:55. The building is old but well lit, its windows glowing like sugar cubes soaked in hope. The hall smells like lemon polish and artificial cinnamon. In the foyer, a receptionist greets you with a grin so stretched it seems medically concerning. Welcome to Level 1, she beams. Please proceed to Room 7. Your neutrality index was flagged as moderately worrisome. You're handed a folder titled Foundations of Facial Cheerfulness, a Beginner's Guide. Inside are smile diagrams, breathing techniques, and an inspirational quote. A smile is not a question. It is the answer. Commissioner Prim. Room 7 is a converted courtroom. The benches are now soft seats. A mirror lines the front wall. On a small stage stands an instructor wearing a pastel blue jumpsuit with the words Facial Engagement Facilitator printed across the chest. He claps as you enter. Wonderful. We've got a fresh one, class. You sit among 8 other men all around your age, all wearing the same expression, trying very hard not to express anything. The facilitator, Mr. Mirth, as his name tag unironically confirms, starts with posture. Uplifted spine encourages uplifted spirit, he chirps. Let's breathe. In through the nose, and smile as you exhale. You do. You feel nothing but uncomfortable. Now, hold the corners of your mouth up while repeating today's mantra. My face is a joy machine. You glance sideways. No one makes eye contact. The next activity is called cheerful reflection. You're told to stare into the mirror and smile until your face feels warmed by joy. You watch your own mouth tremble in confusion. Your eyes stay cold. Mr. Mirth approaches. Let's talk about your smile delay reflex. It's common among outsiders. Your mouth wants to follow social cues, but your heart lags behind. Don't worry, we can train your cheer instinct. You want to reply, but you're busy suppressing a laugh. Not the joyful kind, the kind born of disbelief and despair. He places a plastic grin frame over your lips. Now practice smiling without emotion. Later we'll add the feeling. One layer at a time. You look like a horror movie villain. The man next to you looks like he's about to cry. Mr. Mirth smiles harder. See? You're getting it. After an hour of mirror exercises and jovial vowel drills, say "ee" like you're at a modestly pleasant brunch. You're handed your evaluation sheet. Your results: cheek elevation, strength, low smile, authenticity, index, 3.2 out of 10, sarcasm leakage, high reinforcement. Required: yes, you hand the sheet back and whisper, "So what happens if I don't improve?" Mr. Mirth leans in. That's what level 2 is for. Don't worry, it's mostly mime work and positive reinforcement electrodes. You blink. Electrodes? He chuckles. Metaphorical ones, mostly. On your way out, a man you recognize from room 7 catches up with you. He's tall, nervous, and still twitching from the vowel drills. You new? He asks. You nod. Just arrived yesterday. You? 3 weeks, he says. I'm still in level 1. Every time I get past cheek control, I fail SMI's integration. SMI's? You ask. He nods solemnly. Smile with your eyes. It's a whole module. You both walk in silence for a while. Then he leans closer. You ever hear about level 5? What's in level 5? He glances around. They say it's just a room with mirrors. You sit there until you believe your reflection. You laugh quietly. Sounds peaceful. He shrugs. Some people never come out. You part ways at the corner. He disappears into the fog, his face lit briefly by a lamplight. Half smile, half something else. Back in your room, you look at yourself in the mirror. You try the brunch smile, then friendly neighbor, then gratitude glee. None of them fit. All of them look like something you'd wear to fool a facial recognition camera. You sit on the bed, rub your face, and whisper, Harold Bigham's would have punched a pie. The next chime is distant, 10 o'clock. Your room settles into stillness. You lie down and close your eyes. You don't smile. And it feels perfect. The next morning, the town square hums with anticipation. There's something electric in the air, something more than the usual pre-noon jitters. As you step outside, even the birds seem nervous. They're chirping, clipped, and cautious. Posters have been plastered to every lamppost overnight. Noon inspection week, celebrate your smile, or justify your frown. Voluntary participation strongly encouraged. Non-participation subject to review. You pass groups of men rehearsing in front of shop windows. One man holds a pocket mirror, adjusting the exact arc of his cheeks like he's preparing for surgery. Another murmurs his joy pledge under his breath like it's a prayer. Even the children seem unusually stiff, practicing cheek squints like squires at a fencing tournament. You're late. On purpose. Jewel had whispered the plan to you under his breath last night at the candle shop. 10:03 a.m. sharp. Wear something neutral. Walk slowly. Follow the music. Music? That's when you hear it. It starts faint. A slow, deliberate melody, half lullaby, half dirge, played on something that sounds like a lute that's had a bad night. The notes tumble down the narrow alley behind the butcher's shop, curling around corners, coaxing you toward them. You follow, each step careful. You've dressed in gray. No expressions. No enthusiasm. Just a face that could pass for pre-caffeine. In the alley, a group has gathered. Jules is there, his mustache trimmed. The soot-faced candle shopkeeper gives you a tiny nod. And beside her, two people in crisp uniforms holding violins. One of them is tuning hers. The other just hums and smiles, not in compliance, but because he's enjoying this. This, Jules whispers, is rehearsal 1. You raise an eyebrow. For what? He grins. For the slow rebellion. They hand you a card. It reads, The Blank Rebellion Phase 1, Disengagement Training. Target noon face sequence compliance metrics. Goal, neutrality drift. Within acceptable margin of misinterpretation, you blink. Is that intentionally vague? The soot-faced woman smiles. Vagueness is plausible deniability. The law doesn't say you must smile well, only that you must smile. So we underperform? Jewel nods. Exactly. We call it facial sandbagging. Another man steps forward, short and balding, with an odd swagger. He carries a stack of diagrams, each one showing faces labeled uncertain delight, resting gratitude, low energy pleasantness, tax refund acceptance. These are your new targets, he says. You'll rehearse them until your face falls into them naturally. You stifle a laugh. You're serious? He flips to the final diagram. The goose acknowledging grin. Deadpan, he says. This one once dropped our SQPC by 11% for a whole week. The town thought a flu had set in. Training begins. First, micro grins. You're taught to raise the corners of your mouth by only 2 degrees. Any more, and you risk looking earnest. Second, neutral breath. Smiling. Inhale. Smile briefly during exhale, but only as if remembering a mildly amusing anecdote from 7 years ago. Third, eye stillness. You practice smiling while keeping your gaze utterly flat, like you're posing for a Renaissance portrait. They hand out pocket mirrors etched with the phrase, convincing not equal to compliant. You repeat that in unison, quietly, without joy. You spend nearly an hour learning how to smile like you're remembering something you didn't really enjoy, but don't want to admit it. The group calls it the polite awkwardness protocol. You nail it on the 3rd try. After training, Jules gathers the group under a dripping awning. Tomorrow, he says, is the first coordinated drift. We call it the smile fade. What's that? Someone asks. We all smile late. Not enough to trigger correction, just enough to adjust the curve. You nod. A delay tactic. Exactly, Jules says. We stretch the window. If the rule says by 12, we arrive at 12:01. If they demand enthusiasm, we give them plausible effort. You glance around the group. They nod in agreement. Quiet, calm, ready. Jules continues. The patrol is watching. They always are. But their system isn't built for subtlety. It's built for defiance. so we'll give them indifference. You raise your hand. What happens if someone slips? He smiles again, half real, half rehearsed. Then they go to level 2, or worse. But we look out for each other. No one gets lost without being noticed. That night, back in your room, you rehearse in the mirror again. But this time, it's different. You're not trying to pass. You're trying to drift, subtly, deliberately. You study the disinterested approval grin, then the mild seasonal cheer. Your favorite, though, is the toothless corporate compliance smile. It makes you look like you just read a birthday email from HR. Outside, the wind picks up. Leaves scuttle across the cobblestones. Somewhere, a door creaks open and closed. You hear footsteps in the hallway. A letter slips under your door. You open it. Your performance. The commissioner would like to personally observe your smile at tomorrow's noon face. Please report to the fountain steps, front row. The Office of Cheerful Compliance. You fold the letter slowly. Front row, the commissioner. They're watching. Good. Let them. The morning sun filters through your window like it's in on the joke. The sky is too clear, the birds too chipper. Even the air feels like it's leaning into you, nudging your shoulders upright and whispering, "Smile, won't you?" But you don't. Not yet. Today is the smile fade. You dress with care, just enough color to look compliant, not enough to look eager. Your reflection stares back with practiced neutrality. You try the polite awkwardness protocol again. It lands somewhere between customer service trainee and reluctant wedding guest. Perfect. Downstairs, the innkeeper offers you a complimentary good vibes breakfast. You nod politely, take the toast, and avoid eye contact with the syrup bottle labeled Joy Drizzle. You thank her with a level 2 nod and leave just before 11. By the time you reach the square, it's alive with tension. The bells haven't rung, but you can feel time stretching thin. People bustle in that special elderberry way, hurried but pleasant. Grins are already forming. It's only 11:37, but early smilers are limbering up. You spot Jules by the sundial, casually tying his boot. He doesn't look up, just says, "When the 12th bell strikes, count to 3. Then, engage." You nod and drift to your position. Fountain steps. Front row. Right where the commissioner will see you. You can feel it in your chest, your heartbeat synced with the ticking of the town's invisible countdown. At precisely 11:59:45, the hush begins. Birds quiet. Conversations dwindle. Children freeze mid-hopscotch. A street musician stops strumming mid-note. The bell tower creaks. Dong. 12 sharp chimes echo across the square. You close your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Now, you open your eyes slowly. Your mouth curls upward. A soft, careful grin, the kind you wear when someone you don't quite like tells you a joke that isn't quite funny. Across the square, 50 other men do the same. It's subtle, but noticeable. The town registers it like a temperature drop. You see it in the widened eyes. The minor hesitation in clapping. The way one of the grinners tilts his head, as if listening to static in the air. And then, a whistle. High, sharp, precise. All heads turn. Commissioner Prim steps out from behind the fountain, flanked by 2 uniformed enforcers and one disturbingly upbeat jester wearing a sash that says Merriment Officer. Prim scans the crowd with clinical efficiency, and then he looks directly at you. He walks with the kind of grace that implies very tight shoes and years of performance training. His mustache is waxed to perfection, and his expression is a textbook, perfect radiant devotion level 3. "Citizen," he says, voice wrapped in honey and threat. "Welcome back to the square. We're honored by your partial compliance." You hold your smile, fractionally. He leans closer. "You were late." "3 seconds," you reply. "3 seconds," he repeats. "Do you know what else takes 3 seconds?" You say nothing. He smiles wider. A sneeze, a lie, a moment of subversion. You exhale softly. "Do you have a law about sneezing, too?" One of the enforcers gasps. The jester drops his tambourine, but Prim just chuckles. "Well," he says, "you've got spirit. I admire that. But you also have an influence, and we're watching you." He straightens. "Today, you will serve as our noon example, a demonstration in grace, a reminder that smiles are not just expressions, they are expectations." He gestures. The enforcer hands you a folded sash. You unfold it slowly. "Honorary Grinner of the Day." Your stomach tightens. You look at Jules, but he's already vanished into the crowd. They place you at the center of the fountain steps. A platform is rolled out beneath your feet. Cameras, not just town ones, but mobile ones, are brought out by 2 men in red vests labeled Mirth Media. A crowd gathers. Children wave smile flags. The jester starts beatboxing. Commissioner Prim addresses the crowd. "Today," he booms, "we uplift a citizen who faltered but returned, a man who struggled but learned, and now he shall show us the true meaning of Noonface." He steps aside. All eyes on you. You hear the quiet tick of the ceremonial timekeeper's watch. It clicks once, then twice. This is it. You channel every grain of your training, every ounce of neutrality, every diagram and whispered lesson from the blank. You smile. Exactly. Just. Enough. No more. You maintain perfect level 1 compliance. Cheeks at 7 degrees. Teeth partially shown. Eyes neither wide nor squinted. It's the goose-acknowledging grin, and it hits the crowd like a slow sigh. People tilt their heads, unsure. A few claps. A child whispers, "He doesn't look happy." But Commissioner Prim, he frowns. Just a flicker, but you see it, and so does everyone else. A voice cries out, "Wait, he's not really smiling." Another chimes in, "But he's not frowning either." A third, "Is he mocking us?" Panic ripples. You hold the smile, perfectly, precisely. Commissioner Prim raises his hand. "Enough," he snaps. He is within the bounds of acceptable cheer. The crowd stills, grumbling, confused. The enforcers look uncertain. One whispers, "That's the exact smile from the manual." Another mutters, "I think I saw that one in the 1897 Addendum to Permissible Noon Grins." The square settles into awkward applause. You bow, just slightly. Later, at the candle shop, the room is buzzing. Jules raises a teacup. To the goose acknowledger. The room laughs, quietly, respectfully. You raise your eyebrows. "Was it enough?" "It was more than enough," he says. "It was textbook ambiguity. You've shifted the curve. Tomorrow's noon face will be looser." You exhale for real this time. Then, from the back of the room, the soot-faced woman speaks. "Time for phase 2? Jules turns to you. Up to him. You don't answer right away. You just smile. You wake the next morning to a town split down the middle, not by war or weather, but by something far more contagious. Confusion. The Gazette headline reads, "Hero or Heretic?" Guests goose grin, sparks smile. Panic. You stand in the inn's foyer, holding the newspaper, while the innkeeper peers over your shoulder. "You're famous," she says, but her voice lacks the usual sparkle. It's as if Eldenberry Hollow is collectively unsure whether to crown you or quarantine you. As you step outside, the difference is immediate. People still smile, but now they hesitate first. Some stretch their mouths slowly, checking reflections in windows before locking in their expression. Others lean into their grins so forcefully it borders on maniacal, as if overcompensating for their uncertainty. You spot a man with a t-shirt that says, "I smiled first," and another with a button reading 12000 only. A debate has broken out in front of the post office about whether engagement delay is an act of rebellion or simply deep joy buffering. Jules meets you at the sundial. "We've got a problem," he says. You raise an eyebrow. "Only one?" He hands you a small leaflet. It's a government-issued flyer, freshly printed. Emergency Addendum to Ordinance EH 12.3, effective immediately. Any attempt to blur, delay, approximate, mimic, or ambiguate a noon-face smile will be considered a Class B disruption. All citizens must initiate smiles by the first chime of noon and maintain through full bell sequence. You sigh. "So, we succeeded?" Jewel frowns. "You succeeded too well." By mid-morning, the Smile Patrol is out in full force. Not just the usual grinners. Now there are facial integrity officers, clipboard-wielding zealots pacing the square, inspecting cheekbones and documenting smile start times. There's even a portable smile verification booth in front of the library. Inside, people sit beneath blinking lights while voice recorders ask questions like, "How happy are you right now, from 1 to 10? Describe the last time you felt real joy. Would you smile at a goose in a hat, or would you just nod appreciatively?" You hear a man break down after the third question. "I don't know anymore," he sobs. "What is real?" You slip past them, ducking into the bakery where Jules and the others have set up an emergency meeting in the back pantry. The room smells like yeast and rebellion. "We can't slow drift anymore," Jules says. "We need a new tactic." The soot-faced woman nods. Something they won't see coming. You sit down next to the man formerly known as the Chuckle Chair voice artist. "What about escalation?" The room quiets. "Explain," Jules says. You lean in. If they think ambiguity is a threat, what happens when they see unfiltered, unrestrained cheer? The kind that burns out your retinas? The baker, a squat woman with flour on her chin, gasps. "You're talking about over-grinning." You nod. "Weaponized joy. We flood the square with so many smiles they can't possibly verify them all. Grins so wide they loop back into terrifying. It'll clog the system." Jules paces. "That's bold." "It's ridiculous," someone mutters. "Exactly," you say. "And ridiculous is unpredictable." The next 2 hours are a blur of planning. You recruit performers, mimes, retired clowns. That guy who juggles potatoes outside the cheese shop. The phrase of the day becomes Project Overgrin. The plan is simple. Everyone enters the square at noon. Instead of subtle smiles, they deliver exaggerated, theatrical, absurdly joyful expressions. Some laugh. Others weep with visible happiness. One man rehearses a monologue about being reborn in the glow of noon face. You even hire a street magician to pull tiny, smiley faces out of his sleeves. It's not about rebellion, Jules reminds the group. It's about overwhelm, about flooding the system, about turning their obsession with control into confusion. Someone brings pastries. It's the most cheerful coup planning you've ever seen. Just before noon, You take your position at the corner of the square. Jules stands at the opposite side. The jester, somehow now a double agent, waves at you from the bell tower. He'll signal the start. The square is packed. Everyone is ready. And then, dong, the bell strikes. Now, the square erupts. One man leaps into the air with a grin so wide it pulls his hat off. A woman in a sundress spins with jazz hands, eyes wild with glee. A mime pretends to cry tears of joy into an invisible bucket. The magician pulls a string of paper hearts from his mouth. You go big, eyes wide, mouth stretched into a smile that borders on existential crisis. You make direct eye contact with a grinner and beam like a maniac. He stumbles back. People clap, cheer, hug. It looks like the finale of a musical nobody rehearsed. Commissioner Prim storms into the square. He waves his arms, shouting, "This is not compliance. This is performance. Performance is not sincerity." But it's too late. The cameras are rolling. The townsfolk, confused but amused, join in. A boy breakdances while smiling. A dog barks with what can only be described as rhythmic joy. A confused elderly man throws flower petals and shouts, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but it feels emotionally constructive." Prim roars, "You've weaponized joy." Someone yells back, "Better than weaponizing frowns." You retreat as the scene descends into controlled chaos. People are still smiling, still obeying the rule, but in such exaggerated fashion that the rule becomes meaningless. You slip back into the candle shop, cheeks sore. Jules greets you with a grin that for once isn't ironic. "We've done it," he says. "We broke the rhythm." You sit down. The room falls into gentle laughter. Not wild, not fake, just real. For now, you expect retaliation. In fact, you spend the next morning rehearsing your arrest speech in the mirror, something poetic but not too smug. Maybe a quote from Harold Bigham's, maybe just a shrug. But noon comes and goes, and nothing happens. Well, not nothing. The bells still chime. The town still halts. But the smiles? They're off kilter, loose, slippery, some too big, some too small. One man just bares his teeth like a confused possum. It's as if Overgrin didn't just disrupt the rule, it broke the calibration. Commissioner Prim doesn't appear that day. Instead, a memo is posted across town to all citizens. Due to increased incidents of exaggerated and potentially sarcastic facial expressions during the noon compliance window, we are initiating a brief pause on in-person smile assessments. A recalibration of enforcement protocols is underway. Thank you for your patience and continued mirth. The Office of Cheerful Compliance. You reread the memo aloud with Jules at the bakery. "A pause?" he says. "They blinked." "They're regrouping," you say. He shrugs. "Let them." But the town doesn't pause. It unravels. Without active smile patrols in the square, people start pushing limits. A man walks through the plaza at noon holding a frown emoji sign above his head like it's a religious icon. A group of teenagers builds a snowman, even though it's not snowing, and gives it a crooked grin and a tiny middle finger. A shopkeeper hangs a poster in her window. "My smile is between me and my therapist." People don't stop smiling entirely, but the meaning is gone. The ritual has fractured, and that's when it starts. The trials. You're in line at the tea shop when a paper slips into your pocket. No name, just 2 words. Trial today. That afternoon, Jules leads you to the old civic center. The doors are unlocked. Inside, you're ushered into a room where benches are arranged in a semicircle. Candles flicker. A lone judge sits at the front, black robes, powdered wig, and what looks like a faintly trembling smile. This is the court of comedic review. A man stands in the center of the room, flanked by two grinners. The charges are read: failure to execute authentic laughter during communal pun exercise, disruption of synchronized smizing, reckless emotional neutrality. The accused looks like he hasn't slept in days. The judge taps a tiny gavel. Defense? The man clears his throat. I was constipated. Silence. Then a grinner yells, lies. We saw your neutral gaze. I was holding a bread roll, the man cries. There was tension. The judge waves for calm. Then he says, fine. We'll do it the old way. Trial by expression. Gasps ripple across the room. The man is led to a wooden chair under a spotlight. A panel of observers assembles, 5 townsfolk, each holding laminated cards labeled genuine, worrisome, unclear, mocking, and needs pep. The judge explains, the accused must maintain a facial expression of peaceful joy for exactly 7 minutes, without flinching, cracking, or collapsing into irony. The man exhales. Can I listen to music? You may hum the Eldenberry anthem, the judge says. Instrumentals only. He begins. His expression, hopeful. Minute 1, solid. Minute 2, a little twitch. Minute 3, someone coughs. He jolts. Minute 4, his smile slips. Minute 5, he begins to sweat. Minute 6, a bead of sweat hits his upper lip. Minute 7, his mouth curls downward. The bell rings. Worrisome, yells one panelist. Unclear, says another. Needs pep. 2 more agree. The last one simply says, bread roll or not, that man was in emotional denial. Verdict. Rehabilitation workshop plus 2 weeks in the chuckle chair. You leave the courtroom shaken. They're panicking, Jules says. They're making examples. They're making theater, you reply. That night, you gather with the blank under the candle shop. The atmosphere is tense. They've stopped pretending it's about happiness, someone says. Now it's about visibility. They want to see that you're on board. Doesn't matter if you are. You nod. They've always wanted that. We just didn't flinch until we had a language for it. A woman with silver hair leans forward. And what's our language now? Jules stands. Expression. The real kind. We speak through nuance, through delay, through subtle shifts in tone. The room listens. And now, he says, it's time for the final drift. You walk home under a sky that feels too quiet. The lamplights flicker. The windows are shuttered. It's as if the town itself is holding its breath. You stare into your own reflection in a bakery window. The face looking back at you isn't smiling, but it's not frowning either. It's thinking, planning, becoming. And that, more than anything, seems to terrify them. You wake to rain tapping the window like a soft warning. It's the kind of morning that suggests reflection, not ritual. But in Eldenberry Hollow, even weather must bow to the noon face. You pull your coat tight and step into the street. The town has changed. Not entirely, but enough. Fewer posters, more whispers, fewer crisp uniforms, more smirks disguised as shrugs. And today, it's your turn. Today is your trial. You'd half expected them to forget, to be too consumed with restoring order, with rewriting regulations and reprogramming facial frequencies. But the system never forgets a smirk, especially not one performed on the fountain steps under full surveillance. A summons appeared on your pillow this morning. In light of recent infractions, emotional influence, and suspected subtextual misconduct, you are hereby called to present yourself before the Eldenberry Tribunal of Mirth for assessment and potential recalibration. Time: 11:45 a.m. Location: Town Square Courthouse. Dress code: respectable cheer. You dress in grayscale. Compliant but uncooperative. Neutrality with a collar. The courtroom smells like dried flowers and lemon polish. Commissioner Prim sits at the front, not in his usual tailored coat, but in ceremonial robes. A sash across his chest reads, "Keeper of Cheer." He's flanked by two stone-faced grinners and, inexplicably, the jester, who now wears a monocle and no socks. The gallery is full. Townsfolk murmur as you enter. Some smile, some don't. Some wear expressions like static, buzzing, but blank. You take your place at the center of the room, on the designated plexiglass circle of clarity, etched with the phrase, "Truth through teeth." Prim stands. "Citizen," he begins, "you have caused a ripple." He lets the silence settle, like fog in a storybook. "You have not broken the law," he continues, "but you have bent it. You have played with it. You have painted it in parody." You say nothing. There is no safe sentence to speak here. Prim narrows his eyes. "Tell us, why do you smile the way you do?" You pause, then answer, slowly, "Because I can." Gasps. A few titters. A child coughs. Prim slams a tiny gavel. This is not a place for defiance disguised as brevity. He steps closer. "We are not afraid of rebellion. We are afraid of mockery, of sincerity eroded by cleverness, of meaning lost to tone." You tilt your head. "Then perhaps you're afraid of language itself." More gasps. The jester looks up, interested now. Prim gestures to the grinners. "Initiate the expression trial." The lights dim. A voice from above intones. "You will present 5 expressions. You will hold each for 20 seconds. The panel of sincerity will assess." You hear movement behind a curtain. Then the 5 panelists appear, seated in a row, faces painted with small suns on their cheeks. Each holds a numbered paddle. Expression 1. Contentment. You smile. Software subtle. The kind of contentment one feels sitting near a cat that's not quite yours. Paddles go up. 4, 4, 3, 5, 2. Expression 2. Gratitude. You close your eyes slightly, add a touch of breath. You channel the moment someone holds the door open just when you need it. Paddles. 5, 5, 3, 4, 1. Someone whispers, "He's too specific." Expression 3. Community joy. You picture the bakery at dawn, Jules leaning back, laughing. A child pointing at a crooked cake and yelling, "It's smiling back." You show it. Paddles. 6, 6, 5, 6, 2. Prim mutters, "This is performance." The jester scribbles something on a banana peel. Expression 4. Absolute happiness. You don't move. Just blink. Hold your face. Nothing. Silence. The crowd stirs. Prim shouts, "Smile!" You respond calmly, "I don't feel it." Gasps ripple like thunder. A paddle clatters to the floor. One panelist begins to cry. The final expression is called. Expression 5. Compliance. You take a breath, and you smile. Wide. Too wide. Ridiculously wide. You show teeth, gums, eyebrows like check marks. It's absurd. It's horrifying. It's completely legal. The room freezes. Paddles. 10, 10, 10, 10. And one burst into flames. The jester claps slowly. Prim is trembling. You dare to mock the sacred art of mirth? You shrug. Number I just smiled. You meant something. You nod. We all do. He gestures violently. The grinners step forward, but something shifts. The crowd doesn't move. Jules stands in the gallery. So does the silver-haired woman. So does the man who once wept in the chuckle chair. Faces begin to drop their grins, not into frowns, not into rebellion, just rest, natural, unforced, peaceful expressions, like breath, like honesty. Prim looks around, panic behind the wax of his grin. Smile, he commands. No one does, not even the jester. You are escorted out, not arrested, not exiled, just observed. You walk past the bakery. The windows bear a new sign. Smiles optional, kindness required. You stop in front of the fountain. No crowd, just pigeons. You sit, breathe, and for the first time since arriving, you smile. Because you want to. Because it's real. You spend the next day walking through Eldenberry Hollow like it's a museum that's finally removed the velvet ropes. People still smile, but fewer of them do it in sync. A man at the fruit stand grins while handing a peach to a stranger, but not because a bell told him to. A child giggles when she sees a duck fall off a bench. It's uncoordinated. It's messy. It's beautiful. You run into Jules near the sundial, where it all started. He's holding a clipboard, out of habit, not enforcement. He nods toward the square. Smile quotient dropped 17 points. They're calling it a civic mood correctional dip. You raise an eyebrow. What does that even mean? It means people are smiling less, naturally. You look around. No patrols, no jester, no bell schedule posted, just people existing. They tried to fight mockery with more control, you say. But you can't legislate meaning. Jules pockets the clipboard. You know what else happened? What? He lowers his voice. They dissolved the Smile Patrol. You blink. Gone? Officially rebranded as the Department of Public Cheerfulness Guidance. Voluntary participation. You smirk. Let me guess. Absolutely nobody volunteered. He grins. Not even the jester. He joined a mime troupe. You both laugh. It's real. It's light. And it fades when it's done, without obligation. That afternoon, you visit the Chuckle Chair Museum. A rope cord now hangs across it with a hand-lettered sign, retired. No longer necessary. Keep walking. Beside it, a new plaque has been added. In memory of every person who faked it to survive it. In celebration of everyone who dared to feel something else. You recognize the handwriting. You smile. Just a little. And keep walking. Evening rolls in like a lullaby. Street lamps flicker to life. People walk arm in arm. Not because they were told to, but because it feels right. The jester, now jester in retirement, hands out chalk to kids who draw frowns and stick figures and ducks in hats. There's even a small stage performance near the bakery, a short play titled The Smile That Blinked First. You watch it with Jules. It's silly. It's brilliant. It ends with the whole cast lying flat on their backs, grinning up at the stars. As applause ripples through the square, Jules turns to you. You leaving soon? You nod. Tomorrow. He doesn't ask where. Neither of you mention how this town will be when you return, if you return. He just pats your shoulder. We'll be fine, even if we're not. That night, your dreams are weird. You're back in the courtroom, but instead of standing trial, you're teaching a class called The Ethics of Goose-Related Grinning. The jester is your TA. The judge is sobbing with laughter. Harold Bigham sits in the front row, deadpan, nodding slowly. You wake up smiling, not a compliance smile, a memory smile. In the morning, as you prepare to leave, you find a note tucked into your satchel. No signature. Joy without freedom is noise. Freedom without joy is a parade with no music. But joy with freedom, that's laughter that leaves a mark. You step outside. The sky is cloudy, but light slips through. As you pass the square one last time, a boy points at you. "That's the guy from the fountain." You wink. He doesn't smile back. He just nods. Perfect. And now, as the imagined streets of Eldenberry Hollow fade into soft background static, your mind begins to quiet too. You're not on trial. You're not being watched. There are no bells, no charts, no choreographed expressions. Just you, breathing. Your face rests in whatever shape it chooses. Your jaw unhinges just slightly, not from tension, but release. Maybe there's a smile, maybe not. That's entirely your choice now. You feel the weight of rules and rituals lifting, as if every ridiculous ordinance, every forced grin, every laminated diagram, every grinner's clipboard has dissolved into the mist. And in their place, stillness. A town that tried too hard to control joy, only to discover that joy is wild, that it resists instructions, that the truest smiles are the ones that come quietly, like sleep. So if your own smile starts to form now, let it. Not because someone's watching, not because the bells told you to, but because maybe, just maybe, you feel safe enough to rest. And if not, that's okay too. There's nothing to perform anymore, no one to impress. You've outlasted the clock, the clipboard, the courtroom. You've earned the blankness, the peace. And with that, close your eyes, unclench your cheeks, and drift. Not into compliance, but into comfort. End of script. Sweet dreams.